Welcome back, Loonies. This is episode 27 of Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ray.
And I am your other host, Connor. And this week, we're all about Moon Knight, issue 199. Ready to get in there, review that bad boy. So grab out that issue, and maybe grab out another Funko Pop as well, and get your Khonshu on.
Welcome back, Loonies. Episode 27. A pretty big one this episode, Connor. We have got Max Bemis's and Jason Burrows' 191, so can't wait to unpack that. And as you mentioned, we are finally getting round to reviewing the Funko Pop Classic Moon Knight. So not much news this week, Connor, but some pretty cool reviews coming up.
Yeah, I think this issue has certainly been probably as much as a buzz as that first issue. You know, it's still quite polarizing as always, but this issue definitely, I think, garnered the most positive praise in a little bit. Smashed it out, so that's been lovely to see floating around, and we've got plenty of our own hot takes from the Into the Night Facebook group as well to dig into when we finally hit that issue review.
Yeah, we were very fortunate enough to get a massive amount of feedback from a lot of the Loonies reading the comics. So yeah, that's always a good thing. Like for me, there was a bit of a slump last issue, but it kind of picked up again. So it's caused a bit of a stir among the Looney community. But before we get into that, I've got to first ask, of course, how are you, my good Sir Connor?
I have been rather well. Any Bemis week is a good week, I believe. And yeah, life's been chugging along well. I've had some great comics in my nearing 30+ a week comic list, so whoa. I'm at least always busy there. So yeah, but I hear that it might have been someone's birthday on the 3rd of this month.
Yeah, it was. So we're recording on the Sunday. Yesterday on Saturday. Yeah, it was the big 4-0 for me. So racking up the runs there, Connor. You know, I'm not sure that necessarily equates to wisdom, but but you know, at least I can say I've left my 20s and 30s behind. So for better or for worse. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was. Yeah, a nice kind of low-key celebrations, but ready to rip into some comics. What were your takeaways for this, apart from obviously the Bemis and Burrows? Any other highlights, takeaways from last week's pull?
Oh, I think it's been sort of doddily noted along this podcast path that the both of us are big Valiant heads, and last week's Quantum and Woody 2 was just absolutely outstanding. Easily the best comedy comic on the shelves at the moment. I think it's just the perfect amount of comedy and heart and sort of family issues that aren't terribly done. It's got gorgeous art and layouts by a certain artist by Kano, whether you've ever followed him before, Looney listeners, but just all round an absolute favourite comic.
Oh, great. Yeah, I do have that as well. You've actually just reminded me I do have it. I've been pretty sparse with reading the current pulls, but I'll pick, apart from Moon Knight, obviously, I just read this morning Avengers No Surrender. I think it's up to, part 4. And yeah, again, I'm still really loving it. I've got nothing against it. I can't really fault it. I actually can't really fault it at all. It is what it is. It's not pretending to be anything more or trying to be deeper or more profound than it needs to be. And yeah, I mean that in the best possible way. It was a lot of action as well. There was a lot of fights with the Something Legion and the Black Order, which were the two villains thing. So it's very much a contest of champions thing at the moment. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I love the art as well. And I must say, actually, the covers to Avengers No Surrender, man, I was just like, I was just looking at like the issues up ahead, and they're all beautiful. Like I can't remember who the cover artist is, but they're doing all of them so far, it seems. They're just really, really good. So I don't want to spoil anything because there are a few little page turner reveals. But yeah, it's been pretty cool. Looking forward to the Quantum and Woody. And just quickly, Connor, I mean, since we are a few of us, and I know there's a few loonies that are Valiant heads, just a quick little mention about that big news that was breaking just this week as well. With kind of looks like rocky ground almost. It's DMG taking over Valiant, and the slow transition out of the CEOs of Valiant. One of them, of course, being Dinesh, and the other two, the Kaneo. I'm assuming they're brothers. It's been big news, and it has caused a lot of concern for Valiant fans as to the future. I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that the quality for the comics will remain the same, although they are focusing on, they're making a big push for film and TV. But what do you think, Connor, about this?
Yeah, that's it's pretty big news, and I definitely do feel for Dinesh in the situation. He's seems a bit unfairly kicked out, which is always sad to hear. But I mean, hopefully, at least the creators of the comic creators of that company keep it going as strong as before, and we don't see any big shifts, at least in the comic world, while they push for the movies.
Well, a little speculation. It seemed though, and I remember in one of the chats that we've had kind of with Rebecca as well, it seemed that some of the writers, some of the big ones, like just recent Eric Heiserer, he potentially might be leaving, and which is a real concern, because he's he's been one of the Fines, hasn't he, previously? So anyway, I mean, just veering a little off topic here, not Mooney related, but like I said, a few loonies are Valiant fans, and such as myself and Connor, and it's just kind of watch this space for that as well. But anyway, let's not be all down in the dumps with stuff like that. We have two big reviews. News-wise, loonies, unfortunately, it's been a pretty quiet week. Have you done some scouring, Connor, on the internet for Moon Knight news?
Yep, I checked all our references, all our Google alerts, and so far I have come up with reviews. That's it. Some nice reviews out there from CBR and Bleeding Cool, who have been following the series the whole way through, which is cool. But apart from some good reviews, which you can find rounded up on comicbookroundup.com for a good aggregator. But apart from that, it's been super sparse, more sparse than usual, even. Yeah,
all quiet on the Mooney front. But not to worry, loonies. We will push on with some. We've got some really cool reviews. God, I'm looking forward to this, Connor. This is really good. The first one up. Let's crack open. Let's go, I guess, Over the Moon. Let's crack on with our third, I guess you'd call it, third toy figure review. Previously, we had reviewed both the Mr. Knight Funko Pops, which were released in conjunction with the LA Comic Convention, Comic Con, and we also did the Legends, the Hasbro figure, which is an awesome, still is an awesome figure of Moon Knight. This episode, Connor, we are looking at. It was released shortly after the Mr. Knight ones. It's number 272 of the Funko Pop collection, and it's the classic Moon Knight figurine. So, have you got yours at the ready, Mr. Connor?
He is staring me down right as we speak.
Yes, he's looking down on me as well. So let's get into it. Look, I've got with me the box as well. So similar to last time, as we mentioned, the box comes with. There's no Declan Shalvey artwork at the back, which accompanied the other Funko Pops, but we do have I'm assuming the more regular rear of it, which is usually showing you, I guess, some relevant Funko Pop figures over here. I can't really see the connections here, Connor. We've got number 146, we have Spider-Gwen. 147, we've got She-Hulk. 148, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. We've got 149, Doctor Strange. 150, Doctor Octopus. And 151, it looks like more of the classic Falcon uniform. So, yeah, Connor, what do you think of it? I mean, apart from those 6 being consecutive, not really a connection to Moon Knight at all.
Nah, he was definitely sort of thrown in there and pushed out onto the market.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose we've got to be happy we have him at all.
Yeah, true. And as I mentioned, 272. I'm just having a look around. Nothing much else on the box there for you. And if we go on to the figure, very different. The first thing, I guess, different from the Mr. Knight ones, Connor, is that it doesn't come with that little perspex stand. The classic Moon, he's got a wider stance, and he's got bigger feet to kind of plant him on the table. So similar, I guess, to a lot of the other Funko Pops, just kind of self-sufficient in standing. How about you take us through the descriptions here, Connor?
Alright, so we have the classic Moon Knight look. Shadowy black face and all. He is kind of closing his eyelids at us. We've got a gorgeous rendered cowl, just with the classic triangle covering the top of his face, even coming up to the back. We have a nice, wonderfully flowing cape behind him, lovingly sculpted, surrounding his arms. He is a hand down, but of course, with those beady little eyes, he has one fist standing at us, and the rest of it is a nice crescent signature on his chest, and just some nice detail on him when it comes to his boot. He's got the belt buckle with some crescent darts on it, and just a classic ready-to-fight pose.
Yeah, looking pretty good, actually, and very similar, obviously, to the Mr. Knight, predominantly all white, but what a lot of loonies would be happy with is the trademark black, I guess, darkened face, which is pretty cool. There's also a bit of a bump there to signify the nose as well. So it's not it's not really like his, or maybe it is. I'm about to say, it's not like his face is in shadow. It's almost as if he has a mask underneath there, and it's black. Yeah, he's got a nice little, I don't know what you call him, with his hood. He's got the nice little pointy bit at the back, kind of similar, how Deadpool always has a little pointy bit at the end of his hood, at the back of his head. It's a nice little deep
touch.
Yeah, little touch there, and as you're right, with the cape, really well sculpted. I think it's got a lot of contours there, and it's quite rigid as well. More so than, say, the Legends Hasbro figure, which, from memory, I've got it in my cupboard. It was a little less, less
back in the cupboard. Disappointing.
Oh,
Wow.
We had this kind of thing as well. I do like, apart from the Funkos, I do. Is your Hasbro out on a shelf, or is it in the box?
Yeah, he is.
Is it on the shelf? Okay.
Oh no. Oh, he's in the box on the shelf.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm not hiding him away from the real world, Ray.
Look, I should take him out. I will take him out then. Oh, look, and there's another thing as well here, Connor, as well. I've noticed the inside of the cape is actually of a grey tinge. So.
Oh, yeah.
So that's added a little bit of depth in there. I mean, as we mentioned with the other Funko Pop, it is hard to work with just predominantly white. I mean, what do you do? So they've done real well by actually contouring, number one, his I guess the tones of his body underneath the costume to give him a bit more texture, as well as just as you mentioned, Connor, the buckle with the crescent darts, and the boots and the gloves, which have the like the forearm guards and the calf kind of guards, give it a bit more detail. But having said that, Connor, how would you compare this with the other toy figures that we've looked at so far?
I think definitely it's a very nice pop in all the limitations of the pop. I think, like the Mr. Knight one, I think I like how much they personalise his face. You know, a lot of them are very vacantly staring at you. There's a bit of personality here in his stance, in his face. I think that's always just a nice touch for a figure, not just sort of be thrown out onto the line like that. I mean, this is speaking to someone who has had pops before. I hope they know what I'm sort of talking about when it comes to that face. I think for a, you know, sort of a one-off on the shelf, I think they definitely put the love into making him last. I think definitely the best part about him is his personality, much like the Mr. Knight one with the adjusting the necktie or the strong stance. This one, you know, makes itself known just sort of by the cape and the fist. And I think in comparing the two, it's sort of whether you like the more slender figure of the Mr. Knight or this very sort of imposing looking pop with the classic Knight. I mean, I recommend getting both, but, you know, I think the one standing thing about him is just sort of the personality. It just makes him a bit more exciting to have on the shelf, a bit more interesting to see looking at you, judging you while you do work at your desk. So
I like it how you say, like, he kind of judges you. Well, yeah.
Look at him. Look at those eyes.
It does.
Not too impressed with you.
Yeah. And look, we've seen a lot of loonies as well post up in the group, which is great. Over in America, I believe, they're finally coming in. Like, I guess the orders that they've placed, they're finally receiving them, so you get the full complement. And it is nice to have both the classic Moon Knight and a version of Mr. Knight, although it is called Moon Knight as well on the box. It is fun to have both of them, I think, because they both look very different. And I don't know. I'd have to say I do prefer this one. I do like Mr. Knight, of course, but I don't know. Just with the cape and the hood and the darkened face, I think it's just really cool. So yeah, it's a pretty fun figure. Highly recommend it if you are a Moon Knight fan to go get it. Last we checked, in the US, I think Walgreens were distributing them. They might be a lot more available now in other like specialty stores. In Australia, at least, Pop Culture. So Pop Culture, cultcha.com.au. If you go online there, they do provide them. That's where I picked up mine, and Connor and I have picked up our figures in the past as well. So they're a good place to go get them. Otherwise, I guess asking your local comic book store would probably be the best bet, Connor, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get mine. I mean, I might have got mine through Pop Culture, but it was just asking the store whether they could get them in, and they got all three of the pops for me. This one, again, I think is pretty regularly in stock. They're definitely not hiding away this one, as with the the regular Mr. Knight. I think the only one that's disappearing off the shelves is the glow-in-the-dark special edition, which is usually what they do. But at least you can still get one of each look, I think, pretty comfortably, pretty well priced.
Mm-hmm. And Connor, then, I guess, what would you, if there was to be another Moon Knight Funko Pop down the line, who would you like to see?
Ooh, I mean, do we get a creepy little Bushman one with like with those massive bobbleheads covered in his face tattoo, or do we see like a more sort of Houston looking one possibly? I would actually like a Declan Shalvey one, or for the
yes, the Declan Shalvey one. Yeah,
I think they could do a lot of cool stuff with the colour, making that very personalised. Or get us one of those Fist of Khonshu ones, you know? Everyone loves that costume.
Yeah. Or the Fist of Khonshu, do you mean the bird armour one?
No, like the terrible like Volume 2 one from the 80s.
Oh yeah, I can do that as well. Look, it'll be interesting actually. I'm thinking maybe we should post up a poll kind of in our group to see who. I mean, not that Connor and I have any sway in Funko Pop making them, but just out of interest, I'd be interested to know. I tend to agree with you, Connor. I think the first go-to would probably be Bushman. It would make sense, I guess. Otherwise, it would be another. I reckon it would be another iteration of the costume. then the only thing else I can think of then would be one of the supporting cast, like Marlene. Marlene would be great, or Frenchie, or maybe even you start looking at Crawley, stuff like that. So, or actually, even the bird Khonshu, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
actually.
That would actually.
So let's put up a poll and let us know your thoughts, Looney, as to what, fingers crossed, there'd be another Moon Knight Funko Pop. What would you like to see? And we'll post up the results. So
I think actually.
Yep.
I think I do have something else to mention when it came to news, actually.
Oh,
Something
okay,
that suddenly popped into my head. Didn't you say a certain part of Mark Spector Moon Knight appeared on Marvel Unlimited as part of some crossover?
Oh, it did too. It is available on Marvel Unlimited as well. Yes, good stuff, Connor. It was the Acts of Vengeance tie-in. So... when was that? Late 80s, early 90s. There was an event. I'm not even sure if you can call it an event. It spanned across all the issues of Marvel titles, called the Acts of Vengeance. And the premise was, for those who don't know, was that there was a group of supervillains that got together, all the bigwigs. So we're talking Magneto, Doctor Doom, Red Skull, Mandarin, and they were actually being manipulated by Loki. But they came up with this cool idea to, hey, let's switch it up a little, say Mandarin, you always were fighting Iron Man. How about, you fight the X-Men now, So they kind of changed their tactic. And it was a real fun thing because it was fun to actually see these characters that would never have come across each other before come across each other. So you'd have, my favourite was Thor versus the Juggernaut. I remember that was one of my first comics that I got, and that was just brilliant to see. But yeah, so anyway, Moon Knight has his Acts of Vengeance. It's available on Marvel Unlimited, as Connor mentions. And from memory, I think it was the Flag Smasher, which unfortunately is not a very big villain. I know, it was a bit disappointing, so... I think it was Flag Smasher. Anyway, I'll have to... I'm sure Loonies can correct us if got that wrong. But it was. I think it was a Captain America or Punisher villain. And Mooney tangled with him. So that's available now. Still haven't seen Resurrection War. I think I requested that to be put on, but they've got a heap of requests, Marvel. So... Only a matter of time, and hopefully that will come up. So that was one of the series that we just recently reviewed as well, a 4-parter, which is, if you check out our last 4 episodes or so, was a real great read, actually. So, but yeah, sorry, Connor. Sorry, I took over then. Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, no, that's fine. I knew nothing about the event, despite the fact, I was even second-hand news from you, so yes, by all means.
Well, hey, Connor, also as well, if you happen to have a couple of extra $100 handy,
oh yeah,
I think there's an omnibus, like a hardcover omnibus of all the Acts of Vengeance, and that would be so cool to collect. I mean, just you'd have it all handy, I remember, I think it was Daredevil actually fought Ultron of all people as well, very mismatched, if you know what I mean. And Punisher, he fought Bushwhacker, I believe, the mutant Bushwhacker. So yeah, anyway, a lot of fun. So yeah, get into it, Looney.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that rant. Shall we head into it now, Connor? What do you reckon?
I think it calls for a. We went over the moon. It's time to go over another moon again. I don't know.
Yes.
I, the moon's knight of vengeance, must carry out your luminous will.
Yes, and so over this other moon, we're going to look at, and we're going to concentrate on, obviously, the current run. It's just come out last Wednesday. I'm pretty sure everyone who's listening to this has read it already. And Connor, we have a guest narrator again. A little different. In a sense, we now have Danielle, who is a fellow loony from our Facebook group. She's put her hand up to do a guest narration, a bare bones. So we're very grateful for her to put her hand up for it. She comes from the Philippines as well, so we're truly a global podcast, Connor. She's from the Philippines, and she is now going to take us through. Let me just read out the details, actually, because I know. So she'll be doing the bare bones for Moon Knight Volume 9, Issue 191. It's Crazy Runs in the Family, Part 4. We have writer Max Bemis, artist Jason Burrows, inkers Guillermo Ortega, and letterer VC's Corey Petit, colorist Matt Lopez, and editor Jake Thomas. Released obviously last Wednesday, so that was, let's say, late January, January 31st, 2018. So, yep. So, Danielle, thank you so much. Please take it away.
Hey, Looney listeners! I'm Danielle, relatively recent convert to the Church of Khonshu and comics in general. Moon Knight 2016 is what got me into Namatol by virtue of being fantastic and making me cry, and so that is where I've sworn my undying loyalty. If you ever want to talk MK or about almost anything, hit me up at the Looney Bin. Anyway, let us begin. With the Sun King and Bushman invading Marlene's house and threatening her child, it doesn't take long for Mark and Marlene to spring to action. As the tension builds with their daughter Beatrice in the hands of Bushman, the two parents lunge at their enemies in an all-out tussle. Mark grabs Beatrice and rushes out, while Marlene holds her own against the terrifying Bushman and his men. With Beatrice safely outside, Mark rushes back in again and outskilled. Bushman and his cronies fall to Moon Knight's fists and crescent darts. The Sun King is not to be ignored though, and Spectre feels the full brunt of it with a sweeping flame of Ra directed towards him. With clothes aflame, Spectre strips to his boxers, but not before sheeting his face in Moon Knight's visage. Like a bull in a china shop, Moon Knight launches himself at the Sun King, and the two find themselves crashing through a glass door and into the backyard. While Moon Knight gets the measure of his opponent, Beatrice appears and is angered at the destruction of her playset. With nothing to do but escape, Moon Knight grabs her and flees from the Sun King in hopes to catch up to Marlene. They quickly go inside but find no one there, save for a blood-scrawled message on the wall that Marlene has indeed been taken. Elsewhere in an unnamed penitentiary, some guards casually play poker before one of them, Nick, who is ever the brunt of the joke as he too sports an eye patch like his more famous namesake, is revealed to be a Sun King sympathizer. Nick has sustained injury and humiliation at the hands of Moon Knight, and so as revenge, he releases one of the criminals currently detained. It's none other than the Truth! At first thought dead, the Truth is very much alive, and he leaves a path of crippled guards in his wake as he strolls out towards his revenge. Back at Mark's apartment, a conversation is being held in Mark's head amongst his personalities. Khonshu reveals to Mark the nature of the attacker who fought at Marlene's house. It's Ra, Khonshu's father, which has a hold of the Sun King, and it is Ra that is their invisible king, a leviathan made of antimatter. Khonshu wants Ra destroyed, and so warns Mark that he must face the Sun King. In an undisclosed hideout, meanwhile, Bushman, the Truth, and the Sun King confer their plans to draw Moon Knight towards them. They are also in search of a base, a place to establish themselves. As Sun King puts it, every revolution needs a heartbeat. They are confirmed that St. Palaemon Island is the place for the revolution, and Sun King's intent is to take Marlene along to lure Moon Knight to his death. Back at the apartment, Mark waits for a friend to arrive. He tells Beatrice of his good friend Frenchie, who he intends to watch over Beatrice while Mark travels to save Marlene. A dependable, fearless, and gentle soul, Frenchie seems the perfect fit to be the guardian of Mark's daughter. There is a knock on the door, and both Mark and Beatrice are excited to reunite with old friends. As Mark opens the door, though, we see Frenchie still in his asylum clothes, blood-mottled and decayed. Frenchie is more than just another escaped mental patient. He is also a zombie. Woo! Yay!
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Danielle, a loony from the loony community we have on Facebook. So thank you so much for that reading. That was cool, Connor.
Yes, I loved it. I think it was probably the most dramatic choice of music so far. That was terrified me to my core. But Danielle is an amazing member of our community. No matter how recent, has made quite the impact, and it is fantastic to see our fans on the show.
Yeah, for sure. It's a buzz to actually hear from our fans as well. We've got a treasure trove of feedback for this issue, which is great. But yeah, as you say, Connor, Danielle is as an important member of our community as well. She's come on board, and she's around our chat room, the Looney Bin, as well. So you can find her there, or on many of our posts in the Facebook group. Connor, first impressions. What do you have to say about this issue, 191?
Yeah, so I think a big takeaway from the last issue was we felt really... It was just a bit uneven when it came to tone and writing, but it just seemed with this issue that every sort of problem we had was just fixed. All those writing sort of cues and the tone just seemed to click so much into place in this issue, and it was just a really fun, really exciting issue that, finally saw the big part of this, finally saw the big fight between, the first big fight between the Sun King and Mark. We had some more, and we had some big setup for the future, some big plots, some setups for what we've seen coming in the covers later, so it's all in all pretty damn exciting. I think just definitely a lot stronger issue, a lot more enjoyable, and it just seems, this is the path that the series wants to be on, and it's finally nailed that, and I just want to see it continue so well.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you as well, Connor. We've had discussions off air already about this, but totally agree. I think it's kind of, for me, it's kind of back on track. There was a slight, adjustment period in 190, and I think a lot of the readers felt that as well. Just trying to get a feel for what Bemis is trying to achieve, and it is a bit of a jolt. Let's not deny it as well, because Bemis he's taking long strides, I think, with the Moon Knight canon and lore, and you see that from the very beginning as well in 188. Like he's not afraid to try something different. So these bold strokes, they're obviously not going to initially sit well if you're comfortable with a particular type of Moon Knight or type of mythology that you'd want to see. I've got renewed faith in it, actually, for this issue. I'm starting to kind of get a sense of Bemis's humour, which to me previously, like the last issue, it was a bit hit and miss as well. It can come across as a little out of place and maybe a little forced, but I'm starting to lock into his humour, so that's pretty cool. And and I don't know, this issue just all round for me felt pretty cool. Albeit, we always talk about it, Connor, as well. Each Moon Knight series is different in its own way. I mean, so why can't this one be different in its own way as well? We love all the other ones. Well, most of the other ones. What sets this apart from? Why can't this be different? So I think Bemis has done really well. And it's looking good. Yeah, looking forward to it. Connor, any if we go into, I haven't actually. I've got to admit, Looney, sorry about this. I haven't actually written any any aspects
No, I mean
here. No, but there's plenty of big points. So, like, as usual, and a little reminder for people that haven't listened to us before. So what Connor and I do is that we have the bare bones, which is the synopsis, which Danielle has kindly read for us. We look at main aspects of the comic. After an overall impression, of course, we look at the main aspects. We try to, I guess, limit that to 4, but we could add a bit more if we have to. Look at the main aspects which kind of embody the issue. Any notes after that, any smaller points, and then we rate it with crescent dart ratings out of 5 crescent darts. So, Connor, do you want to kick off? Well, what would be one of the biggest aspects of this issue?
I think we should just start at the start, probably what encompasses about half of the issue, up to a cute scene we'll talk about involving a reference to Dazzler. I think, despite the fact that last issue pretty prominently had it on its cover with no avail, this is the first big fight between Mark and the Sun King.
Yes, it is. Sorry.
No, you go.
Oh no, I was saying, this is what kind of we've really been waiting for, the first time they kind of meet and how they take the measure of each other. But yeah, it was all systems go there.
Yes, I think. All right, so as we heard in the narrative, this opens up. Mark doesn't take any shit at the start of this. He in Marlene's home, ready to kill. The Sun King ready to kill, that is. Mark and Marlene just unleash into a no-holds-barred fight against that involves being thrown through walls, outdoors, involving slides, and I think it's just a really well-paced fight. I think probably one of the big things about it is when it comes to this pacing, it's got a great opening narration by this Khonshu persona within his head, which then opens up to a full page, which then just opens up into this really sort of a really fun, action-y scene involving gunshots through doors and massive kicks, and like I was talking about, there's plenty of throws outside and flames burning from the Sun King, and it's kind of what sort of always made Moon Knight, was always this incredibly macabre fascination with violence that has pushed this run almost as long as it has. Almost like people talk about one of the big differences between, Batman and Moon Knight. One of the first things they say is almost this ultra violence, and it's kind of awesome how Bemis manages to bring this big fight with plenty of character. When it comes to Mark's persona, we see more of him evolve, and his love and his want to be a hero, and we see the Sun King's madness and want for chaos, more here than we've probably ever seen it before. And there's just great mixes of humor in here as well. A particularly fantastic costume of briefs and masks shows up.
Yeah,
and it just blends everything that the last issue sort of missed. And last issue sort of had all these different components, but here, just from this straight-out-the-go fight scene, Bemis brings in, the darker elements, the humor, the character, and just brings it into one really succinct opening that just kickstarts a great issue.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a great way to kind of blast into the issue as well. And if we were to focus on, as you were mentioning, Connor, the confrontation with Mark and the Sun King, and just the fights on, we see, I guess, the trademark recklessness of Mark. Because let's face it, he hardly knows this guy. He doesn't know this guy's got any super abilities, and we know how powerful the Sun King is. But Mark has no problems, picking a fight with him. And from the very outset, we see Sun King blast out a few fiery shots from his eyes. So that must be fair warning to Mark that, he's not fighting just a normal dude. It's one of those super-powered dudes that he's got to be careful with. And one of the things I really loved about this as well, Connor, is there was a lot of talk about Marlene in the last issue and her role and how maybe disappointing it was that she was that damsel in distress. Look, I think that's all been to dust here. The first couple of pages, she takes on Bushman. She's got a knife. She comes out. She must have been concealing behind her back, and she just has at him. With the knife.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Exactly, that second full page spread. It's just bam, straight off the gate.
Yeah, exactly. And so she's fearless as well, and that's what we like to see with Marlene. Like, historically, she's always been more than capable to hold her own. And what I love about this as well is that you even see after the title page, and after they've started their fighting, Mark just picks up Beatrice and he rushes out and he leaves Marlene to herself. But he knows that she's more than capable, and so he kind of barks out, "Marlene, out now!" So it's like almost as if they're long time, mercenaries themselves. He has total trust in Marlene. Like, he's not worried about her. It's almost as if they've kind of hit this groove. Okay, this is an emergency. They know exactly what to do. So, I really, really loved. I loved the battle, and as you say, Connor, some really good things. The fight scenes and what Jason Burrows does, it's really dynamic because every move from Mark. If you look at the pages 6 to 7 on the digital, there's a flow to his body, when he's doing the punches and the kicks as well. So you get that real kinetic energy of him just constantly moving and kicking and slicing. What I also like about this as well is that we see, I don't know, for me again, a return to... it seemed obvious for me that Mark's doing a lot of the kicking now as well. Like, it's not just his fists, and so he relies a lot on the power of his legs and kicking. And I remember in the 80s run, the original run, there was a whole talk about Moon Knight. I can't remember the fighting form, but it was to do with it was a martial arts, and a lot of it had to do with kicking. So it's good to see that Bemis and Burrows have stayed true to Mark and I guess his fighting style. He is a boxer as well. He was a heavyweight boxer, so he's more than capable with his fists as well. But for someone who's a heavyweight, he's also quite nimble, and so he can jump and kick, and it's really, really cool. The choreography as well, Connor, that bit where he strips off to his boxers. I mean, how it is comical in the fact that he takes his trousers off, which are on fire, and then he kind of flicks them into Sun King's face. I found that hilarious. He's just using...
And there's an...
Yeah? Sorry? Go on.
Oh, no, I was just saying there's an amazing use of onomatopoeia where when, like, one of the sound effects is a whomp of it hitting his face, the two trouser legs make the U. It's just a nice visual gag in the middle of a very intense fight that doesn't feel out of place and just feels natural and flowing. Because you're right, like, the choreography does make as much a good physical joke as it makes a good fight. Yeah,
it's great actually, and I was kind of cheering when he did that. It's like you can totally see that Mark is doing whatever he can. Like, he doesn't care what he does. He'll do everything to get the upper hand. And again, he totally beats up on Bushman. Bushman must really hate him by now. He gets a face slammed right in the wall. I mean, he can't get a break with Moon Knight just kind of going to town on his face. But yeah, as you mentioned, Connor, as well, the fight, and then he slips on the Mr. Knight mask, which is just excellent. I think Rebecca, one of our identities and high priests, has said that it's really cool because I was chatting with her, and it's like it's not your kind of tropey thing where he kind of strips his gear off and he's in full costume. This is how it is. He's down to his Dax, and he's going to put a costume on, but he's only got time to put the mask on, and that's it. And it's brilliant. So it's a good fight. It's a great fight, I think, with Sun King and Moon Knight.
100%. So actually make specific mention here as well while we're here. Just once again, Burrows brings his A game when it comes to rendering every punch, every crack of glass. You see the absolute devastation wreaked upon Bushman's face when his face is shoved against a wall, every cut, every bit of blood. We see, there's an amazing, massive panel of, Sun King being thrown out a window. And specific mention here too, it is the night and there's a lot of fire, and just the way Lopez brings in the fire and the shadows of the night, it's just so atmospheric. And anytime you see the background in the pitch black sky with the flames bringing out the foreground and lighting up this scene, it's just like a masterwork in colouring and atmosphere that, you almost don't notice because it's so natural an element in this nighttime fight scene.
And Lopez does have a lot to do here as well. Like, if you look at... There is a definite emphasis on the foreground, the characters as well. Much of the background is just a swatch of a colour, basically, because we're inside Marlene's house, and a lot of it is around that reddy, orangey colour, I guess to insinuate the flames all around and the heat of the battle. But yeah, there's definitely an emphasis on character, on foreground stuff. So so Lopez really does shine here with a nice palette of colours that kind of complement each other. Like when they crash through to the backyard where it is night, as you say, it shifts, oh so briefly to, that nice kind of darker blue-grey of the nighttime. And when they come back in, and when they find Marlene's gone, we're back to that kind of the orange hues there, to kind of showcase how hot, I guess, and intense it all is in there. So looking good. Look, one of my other main aspects, one of the main aspects I thought as well is we've got to talk about Beatrice. Yeah, so Marlene and Mark's daughter, Beatrice, she has obviously a bigger role than just the last page reveal of the last issue, and I found it quite engaging, as a little kid, and written quite well.
Yeah, kids are very easily they either don't sound like kids, as she sort of didn't last issue, or just annoying. This one's just really cute and charming. I imagine her persona is probably based on one of Bemis' own young girls, and I think she's adorable. There's an amazing scene with Mark just sort of being a father to her, and that revelation as well.
Yes, yeah, that's right. And I love the banter that she has with him. It's kind of like it's really cool, and as you mentioned, it's really hard to write for like a voice for a younger kid, but I love that interaction between her and Mark. And for instance, what is it? He goes, like Beatrice is saying, "Oh, look, my mum told me my dad's a superhero," and he said, "Oh, I'm kind of one," and immediately she goes, "You are not, you just wear a weird sock on your face." So, kid's very blunt, to the point. She's not convinced at all, and Mark doesn't really fit the mold of a superhero. If she's thinking of your Captain America or your Thors or Iron Mans, he's just a banged up guy. Really, he's got bandages. He's all scuffed up. Hasn't shown any superpowers or anything. But yeah, it's a nice little exchange that they have at his apartment, and it culminates in her just kind of losing interest in it all after a while, and just going, "Do you like Katy Perry?" So they start looking at his record collection, and as you mentioned, Connor, as I was going to put as a little note, we have a little reference there to Dazzler. So they find a bit of common ground there. But yeah, Beatrice is a really, I think, a really interesting character. I'd like to see. Hopefully, I think next issue though we're going to go to that island, right, where they're setting up shop. But I guess Beatrice, well, if she does stay with Frenchie, we'll get onto that a bit later. I'd like to see a bit more of her and how her character develops as well. Like, does she come around to finally accepting Mark as a superhero, or I'm sure she has some quips in store that we're just waiting to hear. Yeah, but Beatrice was pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. I suppose I think I'll get this out of the way just as a quick side note of the overall, and then if I could possibly move into another aspect after that.
Sure.
I think there is a great scene where they end up back inside Mark's head with Khonshu explaining sort of the relationship to Ra and evil and everything hateful in the form of the Sun King. And I think that scene really cemented the characters of not only Khonshu but Mark and Jake. I think I like Stephen Grant from the get-go. I think he was a pretty, he's really silent off to the side, but I think he's well written. But just this scene with everything we've seen before in this issue just consolidates that. I think Bemis has sort of an overrunning theme of this entire issue has just nailed these voices. I like seeing them interact more than ever. I like seeing inside Mark's head. I think it's just really fun. I think Khonshu, more importantly than just a persona or a weird figment of a god, is a great narrating tool. I think that first page of this issue itself is, in of itself, like a great use of Khonshu for narration, just great narration in itself. And I thought that was just really good. Like, that's a 2-page part, but for me it just stuck out as like, we finally had these characters. I'm interested to see how that head dynamic plays out as it did against the Truth when they were fighting now, once we head to the island, which I'm sure will be full of dangers. And
it is good. It's a step up, or developing a step further from 188, where we got a bit of an exposition on the relationship between Khonshu and Ra, and we got an introduction to Amon-Ra, the sun god. So I love how Bemis is he's intertwining also a bit of Lovecraft here with Cthulhu, the tentacled basically, I guess, deity, which is synonymous with a lot of science fiction and horror, but it's good that he includes that here as well, and Khonshu using that as an example, and also just the explanation of Ra / God / what does he call it, and how it's like a Leviathan made of antimatter now as well. So a very interesting theological kind of explanation as to Ra and Khonshu's role. At the end of it, basically, the message is, as Khonshu said, we've just got to put this guy down. Like, he's going to cause havoc, and he's got to be stopped. So really, really good. Really nice. Really nice way to drop that in there, I think, from Bemis. And as you say, Connor, as well, the narration from Khonshu, I think, is good. I really like it. Khonshu's got a really different role here, doesn't he? He's no longer is he like the devil in Mark's ear. He's very much part of the identities, and he kind of binds them all together and explains stuff. He kind of rationalizes all this stuff. Maybe that's what he is. He kind of rationalizes everything.
Yeah, I think that was how sort of Bemis must have taken the Lemire run and how it's incorporated here. Like, I'm definitely convinced now, obviously, this isn't the god. This is like a persona, and Mark coming to terms with that, so... Yeah.
What was your aspect that you were going to allude to?
Yes, well, I think the truth of this issue, and the one I think we all saw coming back, is that the Truth is back. He's Mark's made enough enemies in and outside of the law that gets the Truth back into the hands of the Sun King, and yet another main player in his little onslaught.
Look, to be fair as well, Connor, I actually thought the Truth was dead and gone after issue 189. I was fooled. Like, I mean, I know that they were talking him up to be one of the main, a new villain for Moon Knight, but I just couldn't see him coming back after getting 2 crescent darts in the eyes. So I actually believe that he was totally gone. So I was surprised when he came back. Did you were expecting him back?
Yeah, I think I was. I suppose I didn't see enough finality in his death, I suppose, and just how much they talked him up. So
Yeah, I
don't
thought
know.
I thought it was
Lucky guess from me.
Yeah, no, I was kind of just reading into it, and I thought it was like, oh, they've hyped him up as this, but they did that to fool us, whereas he just was like a one issue, one and done. But but he's returned here, which is good because I liked him as well. So I'm glad to see him back, and we also get a bit of Bemis humour here again. I love this actually. I think one of our podcasting friends, Derek from Defenders TV podcast, would have had a little chuckle at this if he's picked up the issue. But we have one of the prison wardens who is, funnily enough, named Nick, and he sports an eye patch, and he's trying to convince his colleague that I can wear an eye patch as well. Just because Nick Fury is called Nick Fury and has an eye patch doesn't mean that I can't wear one. So I really like that little banter that they had over there. But yeah, as you say, Connor, we finally find out that he reveals the eye patch, and he's a Sun King sympathizer. He's been beaten up or hurt by Moon Knight, and he wants a little bit of revenge. Which kind of leads me to believe, Connor, as well. So he must have been a criminal. How did he end up being a prison warden?
Yeah, I don't know. Possibly he was a crooked cop who just didn't get caught out.
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe possibly wearing a mask when he fought Moon Knight on various encounters.
Yeah, true. I just found it one of those funny things that, I could understand if there was a criminal on the street who had been beaten up, like that roomful that we saw last issue. But it's like, okay, there's one that's actually working in the penal system, and that's fortunate. But it was good to see the truth just basically stroll out there, and he's just causing havoc. He's just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got 7 people just writhing on the ground. He's certainly a dangerous character.
He ain't having none of it, that's for sure.
Look, I'm also gonna hit something right on the head here as a big main aspect, and I think you probably know what it is, Connor. It is revealed on the last page, and it's a return of one of our favourite characters, Frenchie. But it's Frenchie with a twist. It's a French twist. We have basically, as Danielle mentioned in the narration, Mark has called on a favour from his friend Frenchie, who they've actually had an on-again, off-again relationship. They kind of were at loggerheads in Houston's run, but they seem to be back together as mates in Lemire's run. And he certainly he kind of bought it in Lemire's run, didn't he? As we covered, he got bitten by one of those crocodile, henchmen. And anyway, so where I'm getting on with this is, so Mark has called on Frenchie to take care of Beatrice while Mark goes off to save Marlene, and he opens the door, and Frenchie. This was a total shock for me. He was an undead zombie, and he says, "Oh, Mark, I'm sure she's nothing I can't handle," and he's ripped from the pages of The Walking Dead. And this totally shocked me. What did you think of this reveal?
Admittedly, I saw it coming. I picked up on the cue that Frenchie
Really?
got revealed a page too early, because a reveal like Frenchie should be the final page, but he references Frenchie on what would be the second last page. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, the second last page. Bloody ads in my physical edition, get them out. So I was like, obviously there's some sort of twist on Frenchie. I wasn't expecting Frenchie to be there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't pick the being a zombie.
Oh, no,
right?
okay,
No.
yeah, admittedly I definitely didn't pick that he was a zombie.
Yeah.
Which, what do you think, first of all, about this little doohickey of a twist?
Yeah, similar to you, it's typical, I guess, in comics or in TV shows or movies, whatever, when they start feeding you, like, a bit of attention on a character, something's going to happen, and there's only one page to go, so there's going to be something weird. So I knew Frenchie was... Well, actually, I was in two minds. I thought maybe Frenchie wasn't going to be the one knocking on the door. I thought it was someone else.
That was my first thought, yeah.
Yeah, but then Yeah, I don't know. I guess just when I turned the page, that was the first thing I could think of, the only thing I could think of. So one, I was kind of happy to see that it was Frenchie, but number two, I was just totally ambushed by seeing Frenchie undead. I was just thinking, what the... And anyway, we have some discussions, we'll get to it with our Facebook group, with some of the loonies, with the feedback, with their take on it, so I don't want to spoil that yet. But I was gobsmacked, really, and I was trying to figure out why the hell is he undead? Like, how did this occur? And it was only later on that I saw he was still in his kind of mental institution like clothes. But yeah, I don't know whether he's going to attack Mark, or he seems to be still, with his senses. He's still talking and responding to Mark. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see next episode. It was
I think the loonies picked up what I sort of picked up first. I was like, all right, this is a twist. Whatever, we'll wait next month. And I thought about it, and I think I came to the same conclusion a lot of people came, that once again, as typical, we're not quite sure what's reality and what's all in Mark's head this time round.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a good point. And I think that will, I think we'll really get into that when we get into the loonies comments to flesh out. But yeah, that is true. It's like, it's reality. That's a question. I'm just hankering to see the next issue. Actually, you can't leave it on this last page like this and expect us to wait a month. But unfortunately, we'll have to do that. So so that was a major mind-blowing thing of this issue. I think one of the main things, obviously. But we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, will Frenchie, is he superpowered? Will he help Mark on his mission? I don't know. Or will he just be babysitter and take care of Dietrich? It'll be really interesting to see the dynamic between, if he's harmless, it'll be interesting to see his dynamic with Dietrich. So that'll be pretty funny. But yeah. So that would be.
I hope we also see his husband as well. I hope he isn't left outside of this run.
Yeah. Oh gosh, his name eludes me at this moment. Do you remember it?
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah,
not at all.
Not at all. But they owned a restaurant in Houston's Run, and he was actually rehabilitating Frenchie as well. Frenchie had those like bionic legs, like prosthetic legs. Sorry, because he was crippled. Which actually you don't really see here, but he could well be under his trousers, so you don't know. But yeah, so that was the fourth aspect there, Connor. Are there any other big aspects for this issue that you'd like to kind of highlight?
No, I think we've covered it all rather well. We've covered what we liked about this issue compared to the others, and I think how much sort of stronger this run looks to be from the outgo now.
Yeah.
One of the things I did like, there was a nice little explanation of the truth, revealing why Bushman sort of became so obese. I like that sort of look into the psyche of a man so beaten down, that this is how he turned out, which I think was just like a nice little, short 3-panel explanation that just made it seem not so jarring or almost like a ridiculous comic book twist.
Yeah, it was good. It was very well done, wasn't it? It's a good way to slip in a bit of explanation for Bushman by having the truth. And again, you get Bemis's humour here. Look, I may have turned 40 loonies, but I've still got a very juvenile sense of humour. There was the panel down there after Sun King kind of reproaches the truth for kind of doing his spooky thing on Bushman, and he goes, I'm trying, sometimes it just kind of happens without me trying, like gas. And I just had to have a little giggle there. So the truth's saying, look, sometimes he can't control it. I think on the sly he did. He just wanted to play with Bushman as well. But look, I guess notes-wise or slash aspects or whatever, one of the big things obviously was introduction to Saint Palaemon Island, which the Sun King now has identified as probably the place where they're going to establish themselves to, I don't know, I mean their ultimate goal, isn't it, is to just to raise hell on Earth, basically. So anyway, he's picked that island as their headquarters. So setting up for next issue, and we've seen some preliminary art already on Moon Knight in the jungle and underwater with sharks. So that's going to be pretty cool. Pretty cool to see. But yeah, any other notes there, Connor?
Yes, alright, one more, just to round me off, and I think I'm done. There is a specifically amazing colouring on... Look, I'm not even going to guess the page, but it's the second page inside Mark's head when Khonshu refers to the Tale of Gods, and there is a gorgeous sort of yellowy tint to the colouring, and sort of more dull and muted look at Khonshu, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. I actually love, I love Burroughs' Khonshu. It's kind of a more refined bird head than the terrifying and imposing Smallwood, which is a nice thematic jump to make from the different relationship Mark now has with Khonshu from the Lemire to the Bemis run. So yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and Ortega needs to get another mention. His inking is just great. Working so well with Burroughs. Why ink is still work to this day. Yeah, exactly. It's really good. Interesting. I've got a hard copy myself as well, but I've been reading this issue 191 on my tablet, digital. Those two pages, Connor, are they side by side? Like or is there an ad in opposite page? I mean, so there's an ad in between them, or do you have to turn the page to... turn the page to get at it. Okay. Yeah, okay, because I've got them side by side on the tablet, and yeah, they just look really cool, like Lopez's colour, like from the green to the yellow. It's just a really different, just a really different change. It's really cool. So, yeah, and that faded look is really good as well. So, look, the only other little note, a couple of notes actually, I had was I loved Marlene calling Sun King out for the tropey supervillainness of him. So Marlene says to him, "You've gone so far as to tie up a superhero's girlfriend, and you're bragging to her about your evil plan. You're not profound. You're a linkless Wikipedia reference waiting to happen." Yes!
So again, that's that type of Bemis humor. I thought it was pretty funny. It's like she's calling him out on it's almost very meta because like she's in the comic book. But yeah, I found that hilarious and a great way to cut him down as well. And then you see immediately the next panel it goes to red because obviously he's probably a little angry at what she said. And he says, but I'm still going to kill your child while her dad looks on, just to prove the uselessness of his cause. So, yeah, he's obviously, Marlene's hit a nerve there, but good on you, Marlene, for sticking it to the Sun King. The only other little note I had as well was I like the little callback when Mark is retelling or telling Dietrich about Frenchie. We got that cool... splash of, I think Adam from our Looney group has mentioned it about the werewolf by night and Mark on the rope ladder and the moon copter. That's just harking back to the old days, and it was really cool to see as well. So, really enjoyed that. Right, well, before we get into listener and Looney feedback, Connor, we have some Crescent Dart ratings to get through here. Can I throw to you for your thoughts on this issue 191?
I think, like I said, this is just a step in the right direction on all fronts. I loved it. It was just a nice, fun, good action-packed issue with great characterization. So I see where it goes next. Probably still not quite as good as that standalone first issue, so I'd probably give it 4.25 out of 5 Crescent Darts, but just all round fantastic, and I'm back just to being so hyped and cannot wait for the next issue.
Well, that's pretty cool. 4.25 is nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty cool. I would give it 4 as well. I think it certainly is a step up from the last issue, which was a bit of a jolt, as I mentioned, and yeah, it's fun. It had a lot of action, Beatrice is actually quite an interesting character as well. So yeah, Bemis is doing some good writing here, and his explanation of Ra again and Khonshu is pretty good. Yeah, so 4 I think is a pretty decent score. Yeah, and I'll be happy with that. So yeah, Loonies, it's good. It's good. It's worth checking out. So if you haven't read it already, give it a go. And sorry for any spoilers that may have happened if you hadn't read it. So we probably should. Is it late enough already, Connor? Like or should we put some spoiler warnings? We probably should put some spoiler warnings. If you do download this podcast, yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Maybe, yeah. That sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Anyway. The last thing we have to do here is now we've got a whole heap. Thank you so much, Loonies, for giving us your thoughts as well on this issue. Connor and I are just it was so much fun talking about. But we have a lot of feedback here from everyone. So Connor, do you want to just take one each as we go down?
Yep. Let me just pull it up myself.
Mm-hmm. We can ignore the There are a few things I put in there, but that's basically everything that we've discussed already, so we can skip kind of those.
Yeah. Why don't you lead us off yourself?
Okay. So the first one is from our fantastic guest narrator, Danielle. So she was the first cab off the ranks, writing about her feedback for 191. So she says, okay, time to say stuff. Number 1. Art is great as always. I really enjoyed Cthulhu and the last panel. I'm not a horror connoisseur in the slightest. I really hate it, actually, since I get nightmares easily. But seeing that full page was breathtaking. The detail on the gore equals voila. She's got a fantastic sign there. Number 2. The story the issue told was really well paced, I thought. Unlike, say, 189, that felt a bit too decompressed. Is that the term? I actually thought 189 was okay, Connor. I actually enjoyed 189. It didn't have the same pacing as 188, which was actually slower, I thought. But 189 I thought had a bit of zing to it. What did you think?
Yeah, I like that issue. I understood very much it was a real introduction. I thought it was a great introduction issue for new Moon Knight readers. Mm-hmm. And, it probably didn't gel as well for some long-time readers, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah,
and
Sorry, Connor?
Just sort of. I'm not sure how much of that you got, but yeah, I enjoyed it as much as it was just a introductory issue back to Moon Knight, so I can understand why that didn't gel with some people.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fair enough. Number 3, she says, Mark, Khonshu, and Barry the Sun King actually sounded like different people, so that's a big plus in my book. Totally agree with you there. That was one of the sticking points for me for last issue. I felt it was a bit flat last issue, but it was good in this issue. In addition, the mannerisms of Mark in particular I really loved. His smile when Beatrice called him crazy, and when she realizes he's her dad, actually taking the time to talk to her about the definition of superhero, his being a fan of 80s pop disco, laughing at Jake insulting Khonshu, talking up Frenchie, makes him feel way more alive and gives me fuel for roleplay. So that's pretty cool. Said, speaking of which, he fought again. Yay! Yeah, which is what we mentioned, Connor. Great fighting there by Mark, and it's great to see him fight in his boxes too. Humour actually made me laugh. I didn't feel out of place, which I agree as well. Look, there was one thing I thought which was a little too maybe it could have done without. It was that bit kind of where Sun King ruffles the hair of the truth. That was the only little gag I thought that didn't really work for me. But other than that, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think there'll always be the sort of one-liner bits off that it work well and doesn't. Like, I did actually really like when Mark put on the mask and asked whether that was better, and it just got like this really massive God yes out of
out of the Sun King.
Out of the Sun King. I was going to call him the truth still. I'm never over that hang-up.
Oh no.
So.
Do you want to take the other points?
Yeah, that's what I was just heading on to now.
Sorry.
Number 6, which she very much agrees with us and our sometimes fear of children in comics. That Beatrice was actually not annoying, which was surprising. She says, in fact, I like her.
Yeah, me too. I thought she was quite endearing, and I loved how she was protecting her playground set, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think everyone loved that Dazzler scene, admittedly.
Oh yeah, that as well.
And of course, the big talking point here, number 7, the twist. I did not see that coming at all, but it actually makes sense. Frenchie did die in Lemire's run. I want to know why he's here and why he's wearing the same hospital scrubs and decomposing and all that. Differences from 189 to 190 is that I'm not annoyed by it.
Yes. So there, I mean, Bemis went on to say as well that in this story, right, Lemire's run, that was all in his head. Is that right? So that actually...
Yeah.
Because Frenchie did, as Daniel said, Frenchie did die in Lemire's run. And so this will lead on to what we are seeing in that last page and what exactly is true as well, which may or may not be true. But, yeah, interesting point.
I definitely agree, yeah, and I think that'll be a nice place to start off the next issue, but... Oh, God, I lost my page. And she ends... Overall, I enjoyed this issue greatly. I'm actually interested to see what comes next. The only con I can think of right now is that Bushman might have a weird crush obsession thing on Mark, which, while I'm not averse to the idea, kind of makes me wonder where it comes from. Ah, well. Too long, didn't read. Well played, Bemis Burrows Lopez. Well played.
Oh, geez, I'm glad you know what those abbreviations are. kind of, again, a sign of my age. But, that is a funny point raised by Danielle as well. Who knows? I think it's because they have such an intimate rivalry, but maybe that's where that crush obsession comes from. Definitely from the Houston run, there is a very intimate rivalry there. I mean, he cuts off Bushman's face, so you can't get any more intimate than that. Next up, we have Bobby Lounders. And Bobby is part of... I wanted to give a shout out to Moon Knight Core. They're a Facebook page, and they're all on Moon Knight. They're memes, funny memes of Moon Knight. Anyway, Bobby's part of that. I think he's one of the admins, and it's very cool to have him on board. And he weighs in on this issue. He goes, got so hyped for Frenchie's return on the penultimate page, only to get completely gut-punched by that final panel. Didn't pick up on the fact that he's in his asylum garb and had his neck bitten out in the Lemire run, as I'd been operating on the assumption that Bemis was treating it as semi-canon and mostly in his head, which I thought, again, as we're saying, I thought that Bemis had treated that. Equating Ra with Cthulhu and other cosmic horrors was pretty cool. Not sure what that says about Khonshu's power level, given he's been presented as either a figment of Mark's imagination or a deity way past his prime, depending on the writer. So so again, Bobby's just talking about, I guess, what is real and what isn't, the Lemire run. So we've got two contrasting views here from Danielle and Bobby.
I think that's definitely what added to this issue, added that Moon Knight of touch of making us question it all.
Yeah, exactly. What next one we have here, Connor?
Next one, we have our other high priest who cannot make it here this episode. So she will, I will deliver her message to you all, waiting in the wings. She says, "Damn, I love this issue. So much to unpack. Such great sense of humour about it, even through everything. And honestly, Boxers and MK Mask is now my all-time fave look. This one gave me the same feeling as Bemis' first, and again, felt like he had something to say about MK while driving things forward a little for Mark. Cannot wait to chat about it and see what happens next."
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I guess, reflecting our thoughts as well, Connor. It's back on track and has that kind of same excitement you get from when we read 188 as well.
And a very important point by Adam Prime says that it's going to be really cold when I go as Boxers and MK Mask for Halloween. And I just want to say, Adam, we support you entirely.
Adam, we totally support you, and if you're going to do that for Halloween, you have to take a photo for us and post it up. That will be epic. We'd love to see that. You've got to get the tie as well happening. It's got to be exact. But pretty cool. Yeah, so next we have Hector Robertson, and he says, there is things I like about this series and things I really, really don't, honestly. Moon Knight hasn't been this kid-friendly since A Vengeance of the Moon Knight. Not sure I like this. The action is fantastic. I like past Bushman. Not really feeling Ra guy though. I'm just going to say it. The truth is abysmal. The truths spilling out of his victims are mostly a very cringy read. His powers almost seem pretty derivative of the profile. Why not use him? I'm finding all the zany humour a bit hit and miss, to be honest, and makes the stakes in this story seem like they are not particularly high for what's going on. Even makes things a bit silly at times. At the end of the day, this is a Moon Knight comic. Room for humour, sure, but I'm not sure about this much. And this brand of it. Know what I mean? What do you reckon there, Connor?
I definitely get it. I think, this is to be expected. Like, Bemis really did rock the boat, and I think it really doesn't feel like any other Moon Knight comic before it. Mm-hmm. And it, like, that's totally, I get that as well. I enjoyed all the humor in here. Ray, didn't find like one joke as funny, and it's just when humor becomes involved, like, it does become just as much subjective. And I totally understand if that doesn't gel with you and that particular take, and the Sun King himself is very much entirely a character that's made upon jokes and a very serious darker side. So.
Yeah, exactly. Totally right, Connor. I mean, humor as well becomes a very subjective thing as well, and especially if you do see Moon Knight as a serious, kind of grim and dark, brooding character, it is hard to try and accept like humor being introduced in there. And Bemis's humor is very in your face, basically, isn't it? It's very, there's no ifs about it. It's pretty spot on humor. Connor, maybe could you read? There are a couple of responses here from our man on the streets, Tommy, and Corey as well.
Yes, of course. Just pulling up the replies. Tommy says, respect, but the profile simply reads and uses their personalities against them. The truth seems like he plants visions or beliefs in his victim's mind and holds minor control over their actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think...
Corey... Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was about to say, yeah, I think the profile is slightly different in the whole power set sort of thing. Exactly as Tommy says, I think the truth kind of plants things in people's heads and gets them to do that stuff. The profile basically reads people and kind of can make a summation of what that person is. So I think they're kind of different, yeah. Sorry, Connor.
No, not at all. Corey comes in and says, I couldn't agree with you more. This has the potential to become one of my least favourite MK runs. At moments, I love it, but with each issue that passes, those moments become further and further apart. Not a fan of the humour. I don't like what they've done with Bushman, and the new villains are just bad. Marlene doesn't seem like Marlene. No one really seems right, especially Khonshu. I don't mean to sound like a hater, but I don't take a lot of positives from this. I love the cover. I agree that Beatrice is a good character and not annoying. I can't really say I liked anything else about it.
Yeah, and again, fair enough. Every loony has different views, and we respect all views as well. So yeah, for some it's not their cup of tea as well. I mean, look, we've seen the Bendis run be quite divisive as well between loonies. Some love it, some hate it as well. So yeah, it's down to taste, and you as an individual know what you like, and if it isn't your cup of tea, then that's not the thing. But hopefully, Corey, you'll stick with just following it at least, and seeing where it goes. It's that's all I can really say.
Of course. Did you want to follow on with Hector's final?
Okay. So Hector says, and he addresses to Tommy, our man on the streets, fair enough. I'd agree with you, but this issue here, Bushman starts talking about all his problems and what he doesn't like about himself due to the Truth's powers. Reminded me straight away of Profile. Point taken, though. Truth's way more powerful than Profile, but I prefer him. I like his Weasley character, and he and his powers bounce off Mark Spector and all his damage so well. You could have had Profile do similar things in different ways in this story. Maybe had him influencing someone with Truth's sort of power set. Rather than Truth by his lonesome cause as a character, is not much to write home about, in my opinion, of course. That's fair enough as well. The Profile is a very cool villain. I don't know what your thoughts are on the Profile, Connor, but he's a pretty cool character, I must say.
He made his like a bigger role in the Houston run. Yeah, I'm remembering that character. Right?
Yeah, yes. That's right. Which is on the horizon as well. We'll be reviewing that, so we'll get into the Profile. But true. Hector as well. Easily true. I mean, the Profile could have been used as well. I think Bemis was probably making a concerted effort to expand the Rogues Gallery of Moon Knight and kind of give him something different. And I put up that little thing. There's a Buddhist saying that, I think this is where Bemis has ripped it from. There's a Buddhist saying that the only things I can't remember the quote exactly, but something like the only three things you can't change: the sun, the moon, the truth. So I think that's where Bemis has kind of got the truth from, I believe, and I think that's why he's trying to make the truth a integral component to Moon Knight's Rogues Gallery and lore. But yeah.
100%. So, I will, unless you want to take the next one?
No, grab the next one, yeah.
Alright. Daniel Jameson says, "Well, this is certainly a step up from the previous two issues. Is Frenchie just wearing zombie makeup to be silly? Also, I find it funny how bigoted and hateful worship inadvertently fuels a cosmic deity made of antimatter. I like Beatrice more than I expected I would."
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I like your take, Daniel. Who knows? It could be makeup. That would be pretty funny. Or it could be what only Mark is seeing as well. We don't know. So, and also, good point as well. I found it funny as well how like hatred actually fuels this cosmic deity. It's a nice little twist to that.
Yeah, and Bobby from earlier comes in the comments saying he's wearing his Asylum guard and has his neck bitten from the Lemire run, which Bemis had previously tweeted to be basically all in Mark's head. And Beatrice doesn't seem too fazed by his appearance, so it's possible zombie Frenchie is actually all in Mark's head, which is the conclusion I think I ended up coming to.
It is true. Like I had to go back and have a look at Beatrice's reaction as well, and I guess it's fair to say that you can't really... It doesn't show her in horror or anything like that, so it's ambiguous enough to be probably taken as maybe she's not fazed at all, and maybe it's not what she sees. So, yeah, good point there, Bobby. Moving along, we have another one from Hector, and he says, this is on, I guess it's on Beatrice. She should have been called Jessica. There was an abandoned Moon Knight's pitch for a new Moon Knight series where Mark dies of cancer eventually and his daughter Jessica takes over as Moon Knight. If I ever find the issue of collected abandoned Marvel Knights pictures in my collection, I'll post it up. And he actually posted it up. A very interesting one there, Connor. Yeah, that would have been a really good way to tie in to something that was, in lore before or was pitched as.
Although I will have to make a point Rebecca made that I think there are enough Jessicas in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think we have a Beatrice, so she can be quite interesting actually as well, Connor. She could well be Jessica. I'm not sure if any of the loonies have mentioned this, but she could well be.
I believe Tommy.
Oh. Yeah. That's it. Yep, Tommy said she could be named Jessica. Yep. Remember, Beatrice named herself, so. We'll have to wait for that one. And again, our man on the streets, Tommy. Right, finger on the pulse there. My gosh, he's good.
All right. Yes, I am up next, actually. Daniel Jameson. I also want to add, anyone else find it weird how Frenchie is described as someone who wouldn't hurt a fly, and then 2 panels later shows him armed with a handgun?
Yeah.
This is Frenchie, former mercenary after all. I know Mark was just talking to Beatrice and probably didn't want to describe him in a negative light, but I found that line to be odd.
Yeah, look, I responded to that as well. I thought, like, when he says he wouldn't hurt a fly, I took that as his kind of his character and maybe his soul. Like, he's a kind-hearted man. He really is. You see him previously in the runs. But yeah, obviously a mercenary. He does unsavory things, but I think he was meant to describe his, I guess, overall character. And I think that's probably, hopefully, what I think Bemis was aiming towards. We have then a couple of things here. We just got a couple of visuals here. We have Rick, one of our favourite loonies as well. He's done a bit of research as well, and he has on top of the Dazzler reference to another part of the Marvel Universe. In Mark's record collection, there is something called Steeltown Rockers. And Rick has actually posted up. This was actually an obscure 90s comic about rock stars. So how cool is that? A very obscure Easter egg there from Bemis, but pretty cool.
Yep. References being a Dazzler fanboy, which we all got a kick out of from Rick there. And I believe we'll add Adam Prime to the list of an amazing comment on the full-page spread of Mark explaining himself to Beatrice with his personalities behind them. He asks, also, why did Khonshu and the gang look like they're about to drop the most fire album of 2018?
Yes. No, Adam's good. He's got a lot of cool comments. And he's got a big one here, Connor. Do you want to take that one?
Oh, yes, of course. Let me just scroll back. Wow, what an issue. First, I'm not a big fan of Ra being Khonshu's dad, and I'm iffy on Khonshu's tone still. I prefer the gods to be a little more subtle. Actually, I really enjoyed Khonshu's history lesson. I love that Marlene stepped up and defended herself. Glad she wasn't quite the damsel in distress that it seemed at first. I absolutely love the first two exciting pages happening before the title page. Yep, for sure. It felt like a movie. I was happy to see the truth again. At this point, we knew he'd be back, but I was still excited when it happened. I'm a big fan of him and the Sun King. The Sun King's back and forth from peaceful to terrifying while he was talking to Marlene and the baddies was great. Speaking of terrifying, remember the bushman that wasn't lounging in a sweatshirt, jersey eating cheese? I missed that guy. I was so excited to see Frenchie. I melted a yell for joy when I saw the panel with the werewolf and rope ladder, but now I'm still looking for all the pieces of my heart after learning that Frenchie is undead.
Aww.
Maybe Mark will get a discount on the babysitting fee. Overall, I think any complaints I have are only because I already know the characters. If this was a completely new series that I'd never read of, I'd think it was incredible. This was the best issue so far.
Whoa, yeah.
Very impressed, little Adam right here.
Yeah, Adam's he's come out with the big guns there. Yeah, it certainly was an impressive issue. So yeah, I loved all your points. Yep, to see the werewolf and the rope ladder was cool. Who knows? Discount on the babysitting fee. Maybe Mark can just pay Frenchie in brains or something. I don't know. No, what zombies eat, so or blood. I don't know. Is he a vampire? But yeah, funny stuff there. Yeah, and totally agree. Marlene, she was kick-ass in this as well. Although she was taken, I mean, but realistically, there were about 5 guys against her. So
yeah.
Of course she'd be overpowered. Yeah. So just trying to see through here. Kind of, we have a ton here. Let's go to Corey Hardiman. He weighs in again. I'm sure Frenchie is fine. Mark is probably just having a flashback to how we remembered him last time you saw him. Yep, which concurs with a few of the other loonies. Obviously, he must have called Frenchie or something to ask him to come over, and Mark would have noticed the whole "I'm going to eat your..." Oh my god. Sorry guys. I'm just trying to expand it. Yep, have noticed the whole "I'm going to eat your brains" over the phone. Much more humour than I'm used to for Moon Knight. Is the island that Bushman referenced somewhere we've seen in the past? I have a few big gaps in the Mark Spector Moon Knight series, but it sounded like a reference to existing materials, and it certainly was, Connor.
Awesome.
Can you maybe... And again, Ben Urich comes up with the goods. And he says, definite reference to Barunda. the nation that Bushmen controlled for a time, the island must be nearby. So, yep, definitely in Mark Spector Moon Knight, the early issues. Tommy cites issues 2 or 3. Bushman does take over a nation, and it's Burunda, and the island might be one of them nearby. So, Tommy, again, can't get past him. We should call him the Wall. Can't get past him.
And I think I'd just like to mention that I guess our Corey Hardiman could be our own Ben Urich, I suppose.
Oh,
we're gonna have to have enough reporters on the street.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, we got a few. We got Rick as well. Who Rick's our what is he? Archivist, historian. He picks up the covers. Rick the historian. That's awesome. We've got a few more here, Connor. Do you want to just take away? I don't know. I think there's. There's
only 2 more after me, I believe, because I just posted some comments.
Late
to the talk.
All right. Well, how about just the last couple? Just cap them off.
Yeah. Rick, the historian, ends off that I actually think all the problems the podcast has had with the previous issue became null and void with this issue, but that's just me.
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, wasn't too happy. I was a little, not too happy, so say a little disappointed with the last issue, but I'm glad. I'm glad that that things have been changed and we're back on course. So totally happy and totally agree with you, Rick.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to see it put on the right back. I'd probably, if I reread that previous issue, I'd probably still agree its faults with it that still exist. But this issue was just wonderful.
It was good. It was really cool. And finally, Connor, do you want to grab that one?
Daryl, Peter Way, ends us off with, not really feeling this run, TBH. Not sure if it's because I really don't like it or because the Lemire's run was so good.
Yeah, I totally feel you, Daryl, there. It's always hard to follow up from such a great run. And let's face it, Lemire's run might be seen as one of the best Moon Knight runs, so far. So it's a hard act to follow. And Bemis's run, as we've mentioned before, is quite divisive. He's trying something different, so that's always going to put people off, potentially. But yeah, what do you reckon, Connor?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's always the battle of ongoings and the current rewrites of heroes and the current states of the big two.
Yeah. So, that wraps the feedback there. There was a massive amount. Thank you so much, everyone. That was really cool, and it was quite a fun issue. So we've got another month to wait, kind of, before we can do this all again for issue 192.
But before that, actually, we have Damnation coming up in a couple of weeks.
Oh, Of course, yes. Oh my gosh, Connor, we do. That comes at late. What was that? Late February, I think. It's the 21st of Feb, I think, from memory. So that will be something we'll definitely be doing. Before we get into that, though, I guess next phase, Connor, next week, it's a bit of a toss-up, we were just saying, right? Next week, we potentially are going to be looking again at our classic run of Moon Knight. So we finished the Defenders run, and Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 1, issues 22 and 23 will be up for discussion, and we'll have a special guest there as well, but we've just got to confirm that, so we'll let you know during the week as confirmation comes at hand. If that doesn't work, or if it's going to be delayed, we will be looking at our next modern run issue, Connor, which is?
Our next modern run, which will be, I believe, the start of the Houston run.
Yes, fantastic. Volume 5, number 1, the first arc, The Bottom, by Charlie Houston and David Finch. And we'll hopefully have Rebecca on board for that. And we'll be doing, as we always try to do with panel by panel. I just remember, Connor, we didn't do it for Resurrection War number 1, but for Moon Knight Volume 5 number 1, we'll do a panel by panel. So we will take that comic apart, and I mean that in a good way, and that'll be really cool. So yeah, that's what we have coming up next week. So, but just keep a close eye, Loonies, on all our social platforms, and and we'll let you know what's up ahead for next episode. But Connor, wow, what an epic episode this has been.
Yeah, no news, but we made do with some great help from wonderful fans.
Exactly. For Spector-Call, Connor, what do we? Who are we shouting out this issue, this episode?
Well, there is a particular podcast out called Capes and Lunatics, which, as the name refers, recovers some of the crazier and the macabre caped heroes. But not only do they have their own podcast, but with the release of Moon Knight 191, they put up a great blog piece, blog on the Khonshu conspiracy, where they ran through almost Khonshu's history, his sort of how his appearances work together in a conspiracy that might align. We won't say too much. We will just leave that in the show notes for you guys to check out. As we mentioned before, big shout out to the Moon Knight Core Facebook page. It has been hilarious and blowing up with fans of that page alike, and it is just fantastic for more Moon Knight goodness.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we'll have to wrap this one up, Connor. As we mentioned before, just keep an eye out on our social platform stuff, just to keep on up to date with what we're going to do next episode. And also, please feel free to drop us some feedback or just comments on the Moon Knight issues that we review, or any Moon Knight that you're reading. And we're more than happy to read them out on the show. Just finally, Connor, where can everyone find us?
They can find us anywhere. They can find us many places across the internet. If you want to email us, you can find us at moonknightpodcast@gmail.com. We have all our stuff on the website now at intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com. Our Facebook page with updates, new episodes, facebook.com/ITKMoonKnight. And for groups where that whole 191 discussion went down and more, with over 250 Moonies now.
Wow, awesome.
At groups, facebook.com/groups/intothennight. Our Twitter handle is at ITKMoonKnight. And you can find us on Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Spotify now. We're on Libsyn. Hopefully all good podcast catchers you guys are using. Just search for Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Fantastic. Yes. Love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening, guys. And we'll be back next week for more Moon Knight goodness. I think that's all from us, so I'll throw it to Connor again.
May Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Goodbye.
Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.